basic elementary rights that is necessary for every citizen of our country. Some movies especially will show it. That is, Indians and dogs not allowed. So you cannot have a platform where all sorts of wrongdoing will be allowed. Minorities as a word has not been defined anywhere in the constitution. So it means it can be any minority. Linguistic minority, religious minority, caste minorities, etc. Abolition of titles. That means Raja the Raja, Maharaja. That you cannot do. Oh Almighty God, please help us. Please help us with good knowledge. Please help us to be patient. Like that you can make it. You cannot give any name to the gods there. Either Hindu names or Muslim names. Muslim name of a god or the Christian name of a god. That you cannot do that. Hello everyone. Welcome to PWLIAS English YouTube channel. Hope you're all doing great today. I'm back with the 5th chapter in our NCERT compilation series. So before we head on, few things. Again, this is my official Telegram channel. Any doubts or queries you have, you may reach out to me over here. And yes, a small announcement. By November, December, the next batch of public administration will be starting in the English language, where 80%, that is the PPT and the explanation, everything will be in English. Certain tough sentences alone will be explained in Hindi. Alright? Please understand, this is not a language class. This is not a Hindi class. It's an optional class. 80% of the content, including the explanation, will be in English, except for a few sentences, just to make the point more clear. Alright? Moving on. So we have foundation courses, which have just started. That is, if you are especially aiming for 2026, this is the right time to join for your Titan batch, because this will be the last Titan batch for this year. So it is available for the price of 10,999. For any details, you can call this number 080-7117-4446. When it comes to Pinnacle, which is for those who are aiming for 2027, especially for working professionals, students who are still in college, maybe in their second year or the third year of their college. For them, it would be better if you take up Pinnacle so that your college is not affected. You can carry on with your college and you can also carry on with your UPSC preparation. Both you can handle parallelly. Alright. All the class notes will be available free of cost on the PW app. Please go visit the app. There you have NCERT preparation for UPSC aspirants in English. Click on free. Not free. It is given free here. That means you don't have to pay a single rupee for whatever class notes I am making here, the PPTs, etc. Click on enroll now. Just give your basic details and you will be able to access them. Alright. Now let us look into the next topic, which is rights in the Indian Constitution. So I understand one thing again, this is strictly from an NCERT perspective. I'm not going to go into the real details, in-depth details of it, which is done in Lakshmikant. Getting the picture here? So part 3 of our constitution talks about fundamental rights, which talks about that basic elementary rights that is necessary for every citizen of our country for living a minimum decent standard of living. Part 3 ensures it. For individual liberties, the dignity, and for human existence, you need them. It is for my own freedom, for my own dignity, as well as, like I told you, to live a decent life, not a mere animal existence. That is the purpose here. Not a mere animal existence. When you say, it simply means that you're just surviving. Something is there to eat, something is there, somewhere a small place is there to sleep, and some job you're doing. No guarantee of payment, no guarantee whether you will be there in that job or not. That is not the purpose. Or you're living in a very unclean environment. That is not the purpose. Purpose is to ensure that the dignity of the individual is not affected. That is why you need what? You need rights. Expanding the scope of rights. So expanding the scope of rights, again, if you see historical evolution, right from our freedom struggle, we have tried to achieve these rights, correct? The days of freedom struggle, because if you remember, some movies especially will show it. That is, Indians and dogs not allowed. Or sorry, the actual board was dogs and Indians not allowed. in certain cafes, in certain streets, in certain roads, in certain areas within our own country. Technological advancements. Now, as technological advancement starts taking place, obviously the concept of rights also will evolve. Digital personal data protection, which has come in the news very recently, which talks about securing our personal data. Then there is the Puttaswamy judgment given by the Supreme Court, which talks about right to privacy. Then the new IT bill is the Income Tax Bill 2025 that gives the tax authorities the right to actually monitor the social media accounts. Correct? So all these, if you actually see, it impacts the rights. It's not just the historical evolution part, but whatever changes happens in the society, accordingly, the concept of rights also will evolve. So people can generally say, oh, how can the tax authority view my social media account? That is violation of right to privacy. Well, the reality is 90% of the people, if you actually see, they are spending their time in virtual media. That is where relationships are being made. That is where assets are being purchased, or that is where even abusing a person or insulting a person or even demeaning a person is being done. So to say that, okay, social media, there will be no regulation, anybody can do whatever they want, that also will not work out, right? That also will not work out. And if you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to cover, then why are you scared? Obviously, I know that my transactions are being monitored by the government. My UPI transactions are being monitored by the government. I know it. It is a fact. It can be monitored. But I don't care. Because I am not indulging in any transaction which is violative of the constitution or of the laws of the land. Anybody who wants to find out where my last penny is going, they can find it out. Got the point here? So one was nothing to hide. Why the fear? And to tell that, no, we should have absolute freedom there. Freedom is not absolute. No fundamental right is absolute. Even your freedom is only what? It's regulated. Limited freedom it is. It is not that you can do whatever you want and the government and everybody else should sit there silently watching the whole spectacle. Got the picture here? Even countries like, not countries, but even the European Union has brought in a new law telling that beyond a certain age or below a certain age, you are not supposed to have a social media account. Imagine European Union is bringing such a law. That is, European Union takes pride in the fact that they give more emphasis to individual liberty and individual rights. So the entire European Union is coming to this grand conclusion that let us keep an age limit for starting a social media account. It doesn't end there. They also have a digital identity card. A virtual digital identity card is there. What is that? Only using that number or that ID number, you can actually access any social media account. That means tomorrow, if let us say you have YouTube, you have Insta, you have Facebook, etc., etc., you may have your account, etc., but to actually log into it, you'll have to enter that ID. Getting the point here? So what will happen? Definitely, government will be monitoring it. And it has to be monitored. Because we know the amount of wrongdoings that are happening in social media today. Talk about spreading falsehood. Talk about sending in obscene pictures. Talk about demeaning or vulgarizing women. Or talk about even anti-national activities. So you cannot have a platform where all sorts of wrongdoing will be allowed. Got the point? Global interconnectedness. Source code. Now, source code is something that is the blueprint of an app or of any software. This was in news when India signed the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement with UK. That is, we tried to ask UK, okay, why don't you give the source code to all your softwares, all your apps? UK was like, sorry, you cannot do that. Nobody will do it also. Because the moment I give away the source code, what is happening? I'm literally giving my intellectual property. I'm literally telling you how to make an app, how to make the software there. Why will anybody do that? But why will a country demand source code? Because I need to know whether it is a harmless software or whether it will take away the data of my citizens. That is the only reason, security reason it is. That it should be a pure and pure software. It should not be something to do with spying. Getting the picture here? So all these are what? Related to our rights. Marginalized groups. So the purpose of rights is to ensure that the marginalized groups like the SC, the ST, the widowed, the women, the children, they are also protected. Nobody exploits them. Now, if you remember, very recently there was a observation made with regard to 3,000 bighas of land in Assam, which actually belongs to Gram Sabhas there. It has been given to the Mahabal Cement, a company. It has come under scrutiny because the reason was because did they even get the approval from the Gram Sabha? That was the question. Especially in scheduled areas, 5th and 6th scheduled areas, etc. Any sort of developmental activity or any sort of land acquisition you want to do, mining, let it be, for cutting down forest, whatever be it, you need to get the approval of the Gram Sabha first. Even if center gives permission, state gives permission, if the Gram Sabha denies it, nothing can be done. That is the provision in the law. Evolving concepts, right to mental health. This was ruled by the Supreme Court over just 1 week back. That is, right to mental health also comes under Article 21, which is right to life. That means, in other words, right to life definition is broadening. The scope is going on broadening out. Got the point here? Rights in democracy, the meaning and definition. These are inherent entitlements and protections. Inherent entitlements. That means you are entitled to it. If you are a citizen, you are entitled. You are entitled to it. And protection. That means you have every right to claim it. Every right to demand protection for your rights. And you get it by the virtue of being human. I know I keep using the term citizens. But obviously, even if you are a human being also, there are certain rights which are entitled to you. Freedom to live with dignity. Right must have 3 qualities. It should be reasonable. So like I told you that earlier example, a man is walking on the road, a woman is driving the car. And the woman stops the car and asks, why don't you walk on the footpath? Man says, no, I have liberty. Whatever right you're demanding or you're claiming, that should be reasonable. That is the first thing. Second, recognized by society. It should be largely acceptable to the society also. Number 3, it should be sanctioned by law. That means, who gives you the permission to exercise the right? The law. The law should allow you to do it. So when you say cigarette smoking is not possible in public areas, why is it so? Because it is banned by law. It is not banned, it is prohibited by law. Smoking in public areas, in public spaces is banned. You cannot do it. An essence of democracy, prevent injustice and prevent exploitation. Rights is necessary. Rights are necessary where in a democracy. Why? To prevent injustice and also to prevent exploitation. Everybody has the same rights. Nobody is treated like a means to an end. Kantian principle, remember. Necessity in democracy. For sustaining democracy, the right to vote, the right to contest elections, and the right to freedom of speech and expression are necessary. 3 important rights. Right to vote. Anybody who is above the age of 18 should have the right to vote. Then the right to contest elections means to contest elections, take part in the elections as a candidate, maybe as an MP candidate or an MLA candidate. Then the right to freedom of speech and expression. Why is this so necessary? Because you should be able to criticize the government. The beauty of a democracy is where I have the right to criticize the government. That is the beauty. If that right is not there, then there is no point. China, as much as people may say Chinese, look at China, look at China. See, the reason why China, one reason, major reason, apart from the fact that they are having a good manufacturing base, they are good at technology, they are also having a huge population, because of which the labor charges are low there. One of the biggest advantage for the Chinese government is that the people cannot criticize the Chinese government. If at all they criticize, they will be arrested and they'll be jailed. They'll be warned. First, they'll be put under house arrest. Then they'll be jailed. Repeatedly again, if you do it, then that's it. You will become missing. Nobody will be able to find where you are or how deeply have you been buried under the ground. Nobody will be able to find. Because the WhatsApp that is there in China, the Facebook that is there in China, or any sort of social media account that is there in China, all these are monitored by the state. And again, like you know, there is no opposition. There is no opposition party in China. It is just one party. Got the point? Moving on. Role in democracy. Definitely it will protect minorities. Minorities as a word has not been defined anywhere in the constitution. So it means it can be any minority. Linguistic minority, religious minority, caste minorities, etc. Government's responsibility, defense against curtailment of individual freedom. That means it is the responsibility of the government to ensure that the individual freedom of any citizen is not curtailed. Means it is not stopped, or it is not blocked in such a way that the individual is not able to develop his or her full potential. It is government's duty to ensure that everybody are treated equally. Nobody is being exploited or no injustice is met out to them. Written rights protected by legal framework. How is protected? So in our country, it is protected through Article 32. That means if FR, fundamental rights, are violated, I can directly approach the Supreme Court. But the Supreme Court has ruled that where relief is available through the High Court, go to the High Court first, then come to us. So today, if at all fundamental rights are violated, then under Article 226, you can directly approach the High Court first and then the Supreme Court. So the importance of rights. Importance of rights, when you say, why do we write it down? Why are we writing it down? So that everyone has a clarity. There is no confusion. So when you say from Article 13 to Article 35, everything is written down. Anybody with a minimal knowledge also, when they read the law or when they read any issue, they will understand which fundamental right is violated. And there is a complete clarity. What is a fundamental right? What is not a fundamental right? Constitutional rights versus reality. Now it is true. Constitution will give us so many rights will be there. But the reality will be something different from it. Sometimes fundamental rights are violated even by the state. Case in point being during emergency time period. Even constitutionally also, many violations were committed at that point of time. So both the things are entirely different. Then economic disparity and rights. Even though rights talks about, let us bring in, that is our preamble talks about we should bring economic equality. But at the same time, we see that in our country, there is a lot of economic inequality where the top 1% of the population actually owns 40% of assets. The rich is getting richer, the poor is getting poorer. Right? Importance of constitutional safeguards. So, that is the reason we need to have proper safeguards here. That is, in the event my fundamental right is violated, what do I do? So, like I told you, you can directly, as of today, you can directly approach the High Court if your fundamental right is violated. From High Court also, if you're not able to get relief, then obviously later you can move on to the Supreme Court. This under Article 226, this under Article 32. Always remember these. You'll be reading about them more in detail once you start your Lakshmikant Polity series. Alright. Bill of Rights. Now, Bill of Rights is actually a concept that originated in USA. Our constitution also is more or less linked to this. So let us see. Protection against various threats. Alright. Meaning again means basically talks about the basic rights that an individual or a human being should have. Protects against various threats, be it from the state, be it from a private player. Safeguard against government's abuse, that is the executive's abuse. So one thing that you need to understand is why we need rights. When you say it is to stop tyranny of government. Tyranny means what? Tyranny means the government can do anything and everything. So if I want to put a stop to the government, if I want to put a stop to the tyranny of the government, then what do? I need to give rights to the citizens. Because if the rights are violated, then automatically what will happen? Automatically, government will not be able to do anything and everything that they want. Getting the point here. Courts also will interfere then. Bill of Rights acts as a balancing act. So it is a balance here. Rights of the individuals versus the action done by either the legislature or by the executive. So whatever law is being passed, ultimately it should balance the rights of the individual. If anywhere a violation is found, then that law will not be accepted. Say for example, the government had to take a U-turn with regard to what? With regard to the 3 farm bills. Government also, that is the current government, tried to pass the electoral bond scheme. It got passed in the parliament, but it was later struck down by the Supreme Court because it was unconstitutional. Then Bill of Rights in Indian Constitution, like I told you, it is nothing but our fundamental rights. Getting the point here, the basic rights it is. Fundamental rights in the Indian Constitution. Again, its evolution, if you see, freedom, struggle and demand for rights. So in our freedom struggle itself, we had this, the demand for rights, etc. Inclusion of rights in the Constitution. It is clearly mentioned. It is inviolable. That is, you cannot violate it. There are certain conditions under which only fundamental rights can get suspended. That also clearly it is mentioned in the Constitution. Constitutional safeguards for fundamental rights. Judiciary's role in protection of fundamental rights. Judiciary is the ultimate custodian. When it comes to our fundamental rights, if we feel that the state or the legislature are not doing a good job, we can approach the judiciary. Limitations on fundamental rights. No fundamental right is absolute. The people, whenever they say right to privacy, Puttaswamy judgment, government cannot pass such a bill, this is against our privacy, this is against, understand one thing, no fundamental right is about national security. National security comes over here, fundamental rights comes over here. Always remember this. What the point here? Very recently, Supreme Court orally made an observation. What is wrong in using Pegasus spy software for matters of national security? Pegasus spy software was basically what? An Israeli software that can be used to actually monitor WhatsApp messages. So we don't know whether the government used it, didn't use it. It is not clear yet. But basically, Supreme Court made an oral observation. Basically, they asked, what is wrong in using it? For national security, if you are going to spy on somebody, what is wrong in that? Spying has been there since the time period of Kautalya, Chanakya's Arthashastra. From that time period onwards, the king had an extensive spy system, Duda and spy system to actually what? Get the information. Its modern version is a Pegasus spy software. It was used during the Mughal era, it was used during the British era. It has been used even during the or post-independent era of India also. Today it is a software. What is wrong in that? Getting the picture here. So no fundamental right is absolute. There are limitations placed. Clear, people? Right to equality, 14 to 18, talks about equality before the law and equal protection of the law. Equality before the law means I, you, we are all equal before the law. Equal protection of the law. So if I am from OBC, you are also from OBC, we will be protected by the same law for OBC. If I am from SC/ST, you are also from SC/ST, will be protected by the same law for SC and ST. Getting the point? That means to treat equals equally, to treat unequals unequally. So this protection what we have, let us say SC, ST, they have that protection, that is prevention of atrocities against SC, ST Act. Law is there. But do we have a prevention of atrocities against General Category Act? That you don't have. Got the point? Why do we have that particular law for SC, ST? Because obviously, we are looking into what? Not only the socio-economic background there, the historical injustice met to SC, ST candidates from generations. And even today, it is continuing. Rule of law, foundation of democracy. Rule of law simply means what? Rule of law, the law is supreme. Ultimately, the law is the only supreme thing there. Nothing else. No person is exempt from abiding the law. Everybody, that is, there is no royalty, no special category, etc. Not giving some special status to certain people. Nothing like that. Equality before the law applies to all citizens. Prohibition of discrimination on the basis of religion, race, caste, sex, or place of birth, and ensuring equal access for everybody. Again, if you remember a few months back, maybe the state government of Karnataka and the state government of Haryana, they tried to pass bills which basically had residence as a condition for employment. That is, Group C and Group D level employment in private companies should be reserved for the localites, local youth of the region. Reserving jobs, Group C, Group D. Group C, Group D means basically when you say clerical level, peon level, such jobs in private firms should be reserved for people from the state of Karnataka or people from the state of Haryana, not for the outsiders. Supreme Court struck it down again, calling it a clear violation of Article 19. Right to freedom of movement, right to pick up any job wherever you want. So struck it down. Getting the point here. But instead, let us say a company decides to reserve their jobs, a particular category of jobs, they decide to reserve it only for handicapped people. Only handicapped people need to apply for this. We are reserving this for handicapped people. Will that be considered as discrimination? No. Yes, in a way you can call it discrimination, but it is actually affirmative action. Why are you reserving a certain set of jobs there? So as to ensure equity, so that the handicapped people's life can become better. They can also be part of the mainstream society and contribute to the economic growth of the country. Got the point? Equality of opportunity in public employment. Again, religion, race, caste, sex, or place of birth shouldn't be a condition for, again, reserving the job. Positive affirmation can be made. What do you mean by positive affirmation? That is to basically encourage a certain section of the society is there which is very, very backward. Now you want to bring them forward, means you make certain reservations in the government job also, so that they can come forward. Got the point here? Their community gets inspired and they also come forward along with, socio-economically forward along with the rest of the society. Reservation. Article 16, Clause 4. Don't breach the right to equality. Reservation policies. So why reservation is there in government schools, colleges, as well as with regard to government jobs? It is to ensure this thing. That is, the socio-economically backward people are brought forward. So again, a debate and discussion is going on in this regard. That is, with OBC, we know that there is what you call as a creamy layer and a non-creamy layer. Now, the issue here is the same thing needs to be brought for SC, ST, a creamy layer and a non-creamy layer. This is still under debate and discussion. What will happen to it, we will have to wait and watch. Abolition of untouchability and abolition of titles. Abolition of untouchability, you know. Now, untouchability, when you say it is in its literal sense, that is, somebody is from a lower caste and you're saying, oh, touching that fellow means I should wash my hand with Ganga. There are people who utter such nonsense. Even today, after 78 years of independence, people still believe in such nonsense. Anybody who indulges in such practice, they can be arrested and jailed. Abolition of titles. That means Raja the Raja, Maharaja. That you cannot do. Bharat Ratna you get, Padma Shri award you get. Any sort of award you get, you're not supposed to put it as a suffix or prefix in your name. Simply means either Padma Awardee. That way you can call it. But not that people will start calling themselves Padma Shri so and so. Or not even if what Priyanka Chopra, Padma Shri. No. Getting the point here. You cannot do that. It's just an award. Take it, go. Go home. That's it. Don't put it as a suffix or prefix. Only educational qualifications you can put as suffix or prefix. That is, when you become an IAS officer, when you become an IPS officer or IRS officer, why is it that after the end of the name they put an IAS, IPS, IRS? That is an educational qualification. Just like doctor. Got the point? And military ranks also, it is considered to be purely on the basis of what? It's a rank there. That rank also you can use. Retired major, retired colonel. That you can use. Right to freedom 19 to 22. Freedom implies absence of constraints, ability to make choices and act without external control. That is 19 to 22. No constraints. That is what the meaning of freedom is. And you have the ability to make choices and act without any other external control. Components of right to freedom. You have freedom of speech and expression. You have the ability to assemble and to form association. Freedom of movement and profession. So one of the questions that was asked to my friend while we were preparing was basically that back then, when there was this whole debate and discussion going on about Rajinikanth's entry into politics. That is, what is your opinion about Rajinikanth entering into politics? This was the question. And obviously, because my friend was from Tamil Nadu, the question was asked to him. But unfortunately, he couldn't answer it properly. What is the proper answer to it, or a UPSC interview answer to it? Not just Rajinikanth, any citizen in this country has every right to enter into politics. Under Article 19, everybody has the freedom to what? Form association, conduct assemblies. Alright. Now, what is the only issue that I have? The issue that I have is, when Rajinikanth enters into politics, there is a high amount of chance that he will be the chief minister if he wins the election. Correct. If he doesn't create a proper party structure where the second in command, that is after him, who should be the next chief minister, or after the second in command, then who should be the third in command, if that structure is not created, then obviously, if anything happens to Rajinikanth, what will happen? It will create a political vacuum as it was created when Jayalalitha was the chief minister. So when Jayalalitha was the chief minister, she ran into a health issue. For more than 1 or 2 months, there was this whole suspense surrounding her health, or rather death. That whether is she alive, has she something happened to her, etc., etc. There was so much of confusion. In those 2 months, I remember, when I used to go to Tamil Nadu to take classes, etc., everybody used to just complain that nothing is working because the head is not there. Hospitalized or sick or ill health, or worse, don't know whether she's dead already. So there was a lot of confusion even within the departments. So a political vacuum it will create. And what happened to the political party afterwards? Even as a political party, you can see that AIDMK just shrunk. Got the point here? The only reason I am telling this to you is you can expect such questions. Expect such questions in your UPSC. So what you always do is you will use the points given in our constitution to frame your answer. Even when you write your mains exam, that is how you are supposed to frame. Got the point here, people? Moving on. Protection of accused individuals. There are constitutional safeguards for it. Like you have habeas corpus petition, etc. That is, there was this particular case in the state of Kerala. It's pretty infamous case over there. That is, anybody you ask, even today, any Keralite if you ask, he or she will be able to tell you about it. It is the Rajan murder case. The Rajan was actually arrested by the cops during the emergency days, suspecting him of attacking a police station. They took him to a camp, a police camp, where unexplainable brutality was exercised on him. In that police brutality, ultimately Rajan died. But what happened to his body after that, nobody has a clue. What did they do with it? Even today also there is no clarity. He's dead, that everybody knows. What did they do with the body? Nobody knows. This happened. Now, son is dead. Parents don't know about it. Parents kept on visiting, coming to the police station again and again. But it was emergency time period. No bail, nothing. Then later, Indira Gandhi, for unknown reasons, however, she declared emergencies. For unknown reasons, again, she called off the emergency. After the emergency period was called off, the father went and filed a habeas corpus petition in the High Court. What is habeas corpus petition? Produce the body. Demanding the cops to produce Rajan there. And that is when the whole thing came out that Rajan is not with the cops. Then where did he go? They even tried to create a story that no, Rajan ran away, he escaped from police custody, but all of that failed. Finally, from the other people who were arrested there at that point of time, they got to know that that young boy was murdered. So Rajan was an engineering student, was studying in the Calicut Regional Engineering College, which is a present day NIT Calicut. Got the picture here. So that is where you have habeas corpus. Then the presumption of innocence. That is, you are presumed innocent until proven guilty. Until you are proven guilty, you are presumed innocent. You have a right to a fair trial. That is, you can present your case. You also will have access to all the evidences submitted by the opposition, or rather the state. No double jeopardy. No double jeopardy means you cannot be punished for the same offense twice. That is the idea. No retroactive laws. No retroactive laws means, that is, simple example I will give you. Let us say 5 years ago, or rather, or not, rather, let's not keep it that far also. 2024 January 1. A girl and a boy were in love. They were in a serious relationship. They even indulged in consensual sex, etc. But later, due to some differences, both of them split in different ways. Later, let us say the girl decides to put up a case on the boy. That this fellow tried to cheat me, that this, etc. He will be, case is taken. Case is taken up. Under what provisions? It will be taken up under the provisions of Criminal Procedure Code and Indian Penal Code. IPC and CRPC. Because on January 1, 2024, that was the law that was in effect. Getting the point? 2025, January 1. Another boy, another girl. Same case. Girl goes and files a case telling that this guy cheated me. He promised to marry me. And after having all physical relationships, now he is not ready to marry me, etc. Now that is the case. Now the punishment will be given under, the guy will be arrested under section 69 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. What is the difference here? The difference is only this. As per what law is in existence, only on that basis you can be punished. You cannot be punished based on some law 100 years ago. No. Current, when you broke the law, what was the thing? The difference here again is, the case that was filed here, only one thing you can put, the case, this is only cheating. It's a mamuli offense, very ordinary offense it is. It is not something huge. Because again, to prove again, for the girl again to prove it in a court of law, this guy cheated me, it's going to be very difficult. So like this, many cheating cases are generally filed in the court. Most of them won't even reach conviction stage. Generally, it will get sorted out. And it is not so strong. Cheating, again, IPC, CRPC actually mentions very limited punishment. Because again, Britishers created it. So there is no provision in it to actually look into cheating on the promise of marriage. That is not there. Whereas, section 69 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita clearly mentions it. Cheating on the pretext of marriage. 7 years, 10 years punishment. It looks far more dangerous. Getting the picture here? Yes. One more thing, just in case you are wondering, only girl can complain on the boy. Girl can put a case on the boy. not the other way around. That means boy cannot go and put a case on a girl telling that this girl promised to marry me and now she's not marrying me. That you cannot do. No self-incrimination. No self-incrimination means I cannot be asked to be a witness against me. I need not actually be a witness against me. I need not divulge any details where I know that if I tell this, maybe everybody will get to know I did this. So nobody can force me for that. However, this doesn't mean that I need not give my signature sample or my biological samples, that is saliva, blood, etc. Number 3, even a physical scan of my body, that is any bite mark, scratch marks, etc. are there. For these things, I cannot say, sorry, these are self-incriminating, I won't give. That you cannot do. If the cops ask you to give it, even you have to give. Otherwise, court order will come. Simple as it is. Court order will come. They will ask you to give all these things. Clear? And why do we have this? To ensure justice. For protecting the rights, preventing abuse, as well as balancing justice. You have to balance justice. That is not just the victim. It is not just the victim who needs justice, but even an accused individual also requires a fair opportunity in proving his or her innocence. That is why we have it as presumption of innocence. That is, you are innocent until proven guilty. Who has to prove it guilty? The state has to prove it is guilty. Cops who arrested you has to prove that you are guilty. Got it? Right to life and personal liberty. Protection of life, personal liberty. That is Article 21, like I keep telling you. Nobody, that the state cannot simply kill you without any proper reason, or until and unless a court order is there, until and unless there is a shoot at sight order, nobody can take your life away from you. Then the right to education, free and compulsory education has to be provided to all the children. All right, age limit, etc. is given in the constitution. You may go through it. This is RTE, which comes under Article 21A. Okay. Protection against arrest and detention. There are safeguards and procedure. Arrest procedure, legal defense, timely judicial review. That is, what arrest you are making, for that also there is a procedure. What is a bailable offense? What is a non-bailable offense? Categories are there. For which ones you need a court order to make an arrest. For which ones you don't require a court order to make an arrest. It is not that for every arrest you need a court order. No. For some arrests, you can straight away go and make the arrest actually. What you call as cognizable and non-cognizable offenses. Preventive detention. Arrest on suspicion. 3 months advisory board. Now, preventive detention is something which is again a British creation. What it simply means is it talks about preventing a crime. As I know, a person has entered the district. I know he is a very big time troublemaker. He will always create trouble, let us say, during the election time. And let us say I am the SP. What I can do to avoid it? Arrest him, and up to 3 months, I can put him in jail. If I need to extend this 3 months, then I should get the recommendations from an advisory board. Why this person has been arrested for 3 months and why his detention has to be increased by another 3 months. I have to give my reasons and explanation there. Sparingly used, because obviously putting somebody under preventive detention, it is not at all easy. You will have a lot of questions to answer to the higher ups, to the politicians, to the media, and even more worse, to the judiciary. Got it? Limitations or the right to freedom. Restrictions can be placed in the name of public interest. In public interest, restrictions can be placed. That is, nobody can say that, I have every right to do whatever I want. That you cannot do. It is not absolute again and cannot be used to incite violence. That means when I say that you have the right to assemble anywhere, that assembly should be peaceful and without arms. In other words, simply means it should be non-violent. Got the point? Rights against exploitation. These rights are basically to prevent human trafficking. That is, buying and selling of human beings like goods. Forced labor and bonded labor. Forced labor and bonded labor means forced labor. Let us say the father, this generally happens in rural India. Father would have borrowed maybe a small amount, 10,000, 20,000 rupees, etc. But then father couldn't clear it. So they asked the son and the wife, now you come and work for me till you clear your father's loan. They keep working. 20,000, I said it is small because I'm from a city. But in rural area, that is a huge amount. And what happens there again is these people keep working. Mother dies, son works, son's son works, son's grandson works. It goes on. Because according to the person who gave the money, who lent the money, you're only paying the interest. I need to get the principal back. Something similar is bonded labor. It's like you're bonded to that organization or institute. You are forced to work there to prevent this, as well as to prevent child labor. Right to freedom of religion. Freedom of religion supporting secularism. Secularism means what? Secularism simply means state will support. That is, we have the positive meaning of secularism, which is we support all religion equally. So when I say freedom of religion, supporting secularism means we support all sorts of religious practices, as long as it does not affect the public order or society, etc. Individual has the right to freely profess, practice, disperse any religious idea. And as being a Hindu, now I have the right to practice it, talk about it, and spread the ideas of Hinduism to others. I have every right to do it. It does not mean the right to conversion. No right to conversion. I can talk about my religion. I'm free to do that. I can even distribute materials of my religion. That also I'm free to do, but not the right to convert. Religion in education. Religion in education, again, when you say, see, generally in government funded schools, all right, partially or fully funded schools, you cannot give religious instructions there. Neutrally, you can have prayers like, oh Almighty God, please help us. Please help us with good knowledge. Please help us to be patient. Like that, you can make it. You cannot give any name to the gods there, either Hindu names or Muslim names, Muslim name of a god or the Christian name of a god. That you cannot do there. Getting the point here. And those minority-based institutions, maybe let us say it's a Muslim school or a Christian school, can they give religious instructions? Absolutely yes. They can give religious instructions. They can have their religious prayers in the morning assembly. They're absolutely free to do it. Limits on religious freedom. Forceful conversion is not allowed. Voluntarily, if you want to change your religion, you're allowed to do that. Harmful practices which affects individual dignity, which is demoralizing, demeaning, vulgar, that will not be allowed. Where women's freedom is affected, again, that will not be allowed. For example, when the whole triple talaq bill came up, everybody were telling, no, it is violation of freedom, it is violation of freedom. Triple talaq was brought in only for one purpose, that it shouldn't be easy to divorce a Muslim woman if you marry her. You should go through the normal process, what happens in every country. And most of the Islamic countries also have actually taken out triple talaq. Got the point here? So here again, always that is the issue here. The balance is always between religious freedom versus human dignity. And again, religious practices, any other religious practices, that is why that can cause trouble with, let us say, with the peace, with the security of the state, etc. Even that can be completely considered as illegal. Got it? Cultural and educational rights, rights of minorities, religious, linguistic, and cultural. That is any minority religion in this country, or a very minor tribal community, caste-based community, or even an ethnic community can run their own cultural and educational institutions to protect their and preserve their culture, conserve and develop culture, language, as well as script. for protecting minority rights and their cultural identity, education rights, and non-discrimination. That is, they can run their own educational institutions. And this is to ensure that they are not discriminated against. Because they are small in number, they are less in number. So we have to ensure that their identity is protected. So Bhashini, AI Bhashini, an artificial intelligence software program brought in by the central government. For what purpose? To revive all the local languages, customs and local language dialects and the variations which are spoken. The Tulu is a language in coastal Karnataka, but the scripting of it, the numbering of it, many people don't know. Even the native speakers of Tulu also don't know how to write it, etc. Because very less schools are there. There are hardly any schools where Tulu is being taught. So what they have done is they have grabbed all the old writers and speakers of the language, and some of them have managed to keep 1 or 2 books where they have shown how will the Tulu numbers look like, what is the Tulu script, which is very similar to Kannada. That they are taking, you feed it into the AI system, and what will happen? Now you can generate literature, you can generate poem. The language is preserved. Got it? Right to, Now when it comes to these two things, how do you ensure that the culture is preserved? They can establish their educational institutions, can preserve it through education, and when aid is also given, you don't discriminate against them. Government aid will be given to these institutions to ensure that these institutions survive. Right to constitutional remedies, which is the heart and soul of the constitution, as said by Mr. B.R. Ambedkar. You can approach the High Court or Supreme Court. Habeas corpus means produce the body. Mandamus means we command you to do your job. It is a directive generally given to government servants telling that do your job. Number 3 is prohibition. Prohibition is generally a directive given by a higher level order court to a lower court. For example, many years ago this had happened. So off the coast of Kerala, 2 fishermen were, trying to fish. So they had moved a little away from the coast and have gone a little too far away from the coast. Another vessel, a big ship, passing through that area, Italian ship. They just saw what? A small speedboat is there, 2 fishermen are there, and they are fishing. But whether they are fishing, what they are doing, these people also didn't understand. They started making announcements. These 2 didn't even bother. They were like, what are these people? Why are they shouting? Finally, the Italian marine commandos who were inside the Italian big ship, they pulled out their automatic weapons, aimed, headshots. The 2 fishermen got killed. Later only the whole thing came out that these were just fishing there. But the Italian marines panicked. They thought they were Somalian pirates. Case went to the High Court. But then the Supreme Court said, stop. High Court doesn't have jurisdiction here. This is a matter that took place in international waters. So the case should come to Supreme Court. They stopped the court from carrying with it. Supreme Court took it upon themselves. Clear? Then you have quo warranto and certiorari. Alright. So quo warranto. What do you mean by quo warranto? Quo warranto means by whose authority, whose certificate, whose order have you done this. That is what quo warranto means. Certiorari again means it is to do with again judicial matters. So certiorari again it will look into what? It will look into judicial precedents, judicial orders. Certiorari means to look into, to literally review the judicial decisions given by lower courts. That is what certiorari means. These are the major aspects of the rights of the individuals in our country. Now again I am telling you, this is just a briefing. Alright, this is just only a briefing about what it is. This is just nothing but a small synopsis of the chapter Fundamental Rights, which is given in Lakshmikant. Okay. Then you have national commissions like the National Human Rights Commission, which also ensures that rights of the individuals are not violated. Set up in the year 1993. It is an independent watchdog, consists of the former Chief Justice of India, former Supreme Court Judge, former Chief Justice of High Court, and 2 other experts in human rights. It takes up cases based on petitions given by victims as well as suo motu. they can take up cases. Then they will also visit jails to look into the conditions of the jails, whether prisoners are living in humane conditions or not. That also they look into. Then finally, you have what? It encourages and conducts research. Again, with regard to human rights. For example, with regard to disappeared youth in Punjab and in Gujarat riots, etc., the National Human Rights Commission had taken up cases suo motu. Right to property. Now, right to property was earlier a fundamental right, which basically talks about to acquire, possess, and maintain property. It was the fundamental right. That is, nobody can take away my property. That was the thing. Property takeover by the government was made very, very difficult. In 1973, property right were not basic constitutional element. It was 1973. It was ruled. 44th Amendment Act. It was made a legal right under Article 300A. That is, government can acquire your land if they really want it, but ultimately they have to compensate you for it. And very recently, the earlier Chief Justice of India, Mr. D.Y. Chandrachud, before he left the office, he gave another important ruling that we are no more living in a socialist era where government can simply walk in and take away your property. We have moved on from the socialist era. After 1991, we are actually in a more of a capitalist economy. So when you say that land can be taken away, tomorrow if the government wants, can the government come and take your car away? Can government come and take away the bike? Oh, sorry, we need this. So what the judgment was about, in the judgment they basically made it very, very clear. Public purpose should be clearly defined. That is, if the government is tomorrow going to take away my land, my property, that public purpose, for what purpose are you taking it? That public purpose has to be defined and has to be proven by the state government or the central government, whoever is taking away my land. It is not going to be easy. Compensation, yes, that they have to provide no matter what. But what is the major issue here? The major issue is land cannot be taken away until and unless the state proves it in the court. What is the public purpose that is going to be served by acquiring my land? Directive Principles of State Policies. Directive Principles of State Policies, as they clearly say, these are directives for the state, especially to the state government and to central government as to what sort of government they are supposed to run. It talks about the aspirations and ideals. That is, an ideal society, how it should be, what sort of principles you should use to govern. It is non-justiciable. That is, I cannot go to the court of law telling that, see, the state government has violated Directive Principles of State Policy. Cannot do that. It is meant as a moral strength. How moral strength? Based on how the Directive Principles, I can make a judgment. Oh, the government is following it or not. I can easily make it. You can hold government accountable. So it gives a moral strength to the people, and you can hold the government accountable if they are violating the Directive Principles. In other words, how are you going to hold them accountable? Well, any government who is constantly ignoring, if they ignore DPSP, what will happen in the next election? They will not win. Got the point here? So some changes have happened to our Directive Principles of State Policy, like right to education, Panchayati Raj institutions, and right to work and welfare program. Alright, that is, right to education has been made a fundamental right now. So the content of DPSP has underwent a sea change. Okay. Relationship between fundamental rights and DPSP. Both are supposed to be complementary in nature. A limit on government actions. That the government cannot do anything and everything in the name of DPSP. Government always has to balance DPSP with fundamental rights. Very recently, the state government of Karnataka, they were having this long drawn out tussle between the farmers because state government wanted to acquire the land there. But the farmers were not at all ready to budge. Finally, the government left it. Clear? Safeguarding individual rights and the welfare of entire society. So that is the purpose here. The society's welfare, that is the primary consideration. Ultimately, conflict. Multiple amendments have come into the picture only because of what? This conflict between DPSP and fundamental rights. Best example again, right to property became a legal right, not a fundamental right. And fundamental rights are sacrosanct, means you cannot commit or do any act that will violate or take away the fundamental right. because fundamental rights are part of the basic structure of the constitution. Clear? Directive principles, the goals are welfare of the people, social, economic, and political justice, raising the standard of living, equitable distribution of resources, promotion of international peace. Policies like uniform civil code, prohibition of consumption of alcoholic liquor, promotion of cottage industries, prevention of slaughter of useful cattle, promotion of village panchayats. Non-justiciable rights are adequate livelihood, equal pay for equal work, men and women, right against economic exploitation, right to work, early childhood care and education to children below the age of 6 years. All right. That is, I cannot actually go to the court and basically says that, see, I'm not getting adequate livelihood. See, I'm not getting equal pay. Can't do that. These should be ensured. Economic exploitation should not happen. Right to work also, I cannot claim it. Early childhood care and education to children below the age of 6 years. This is today provided by the state. All right. Fundamental duties. 42nd Amendment Act of 1976. Through that, this thing was added. Like I mentioned earlier, during the emergency period, fundamental duties were added. There are 11 fundamental duties. Again, these are non-justiciable. That means nobody can punish me if I'm not doing my fundamental duty. Public facility as facet of a fundamental right. Service provided by the government includes basic services. Citizens can lead dignified lives, vital role in reducing social inequalities, integral to human development. All the public facilities, whatever are there, it is a facet of fundamental right. Public parks, school, water, electricity, good road, clean air, environment, everything. It is a service provided by the government. It's part of the basic service for the citizens to lead a dignified life and comes under the definition of Article 21. It helps in reducing social inequalities. Best example is the metro. Now, a metro, when you go, see, Indian Railway, when you go, at least you will find that division, right? AC compartment is there, non-AC is there, general is there, etc., is there. Some people are sitting, some compartments are crowded, some people relax nicely and go. Because it is all about you have more money, get better service. But metro is the best example of what? Metro is the best example of reducing all sorts of social inequalities. Because you go inside a metro, sometimes, especially Delhi, Mumbai, etc., you will find Hrithik Roshan also inside it. You will also see in that same bogie, a person who has walked in, maybe without a slipper. Mazdoor, basically, somebody who is a laborer, come there and he is standing there silently because he is a little overwhelmed, seeing all the people. Or maybe he is sitting there and maybe Mr. Hrithik Roshan is standing there. So it doesn't matter. Hrithik Roshan is worth crores together. Doesn't matter. The fact that this poor man is getting a seat inside a metro where a rich man is holding clearly emphasizes what? Social equality. There is no division. There is nothing that, okay, you are rich, so you get a seat. You are rich, you can pay more and get the front seat. Nothing. All are equal there. Your economics doesn't matter. Your caste doesn't matter. Your social background doesn't matter. Your language abilities doesn't matter. Nothing matters there. Metro is that perfect example of the basic services being provided by the government where social equality is ensured. Everybody are treated equally inside the metro. Got the point here? Even in a public transportation system like a bus also, maybe you will not feel it. Because buses, AC buses are limited again. AC buses are limited and again only people who can afford it can afford it. Got the point? Metro, that is not the case. Equality. Government role in providing public facilities. It is a responsibility of the government. Planning and development, policy formulation. They allocate the resources, they manage the infrastructure, they ensure equitable access, and they also regulate and maintain an oversight that the right amount of services reaches the right amount of people. Impact brings in social cohesion. It actually unites the people. Economic growth ensures well-being of citizens. What are the challenges? In resource allocation, you should ensure goes to the right beneficiaries. Maintaining infrastructure is not easy. Vadodara, the way the bridge collapsed, we saw. Bihar, bridges after bridges going on collapsing, we have seen. And balancing the priorities. That is, priorities when I say, should I go for more freebies versus capital investment? Now, while I will show you a few numbers, then you will understand what is the problem with our country. With just a little data, I will tell you what is the problem in our country. Just wait a while. Strategies, efficient resource management, public-private partnership, community engagement. Public-private partnership, I told you, best example again is the Adani Group as well as the government is redeveloping Dharavi. Importance, it will ensure equitable access to everybody. Like I told you, best example is metro. You bring in socio-equity, inclusive development. Everybody is part of the whole development process of the economy. Now observe people. These are the various heads. That is whatever expenditures we have. Interest means the payments whatever we have to make for the loan what we have borrowed. For example, from World Bank we have taken $800 million. For whom? This is for the Andhra Pradesh government to develop the capital of Amaravati. So who has to pay the interest for it? Definitely the state government has to pay the interest. Correct? Similarly, center also when they borrow money they have to pay an interest. That accounts for 23.96%. You cannot do that. Hey, I don't have money this time. Next time I will give. That you cannot do it over here. You have to pay it every month. Transport, we spend around 11.48%. Defense, we spend around 9.61%. Again, many people will say, why are we spending so much on defense? We need peace, shanti, etc. Peace, shanti, it is not a one-way street. Peace and shanti will only come as long as the other person is having the minimum common sense to understand that we are being patient, that we are being kind. If the other person mistakes our peace and our shanti for weakness, that is where we have to draw the line. Definitely, I'm talking about our Kujli neighbors, Pakistan and Bangladesh, currently. So this we cannot blame the government. But look at this now. Major subsidies accounts for 8.32% of our expenses goes into subsidies. Now to understand the perspective here, look at rural development. How much are we spending? 5.29. Why less? Because of subsidies. For education, how much are we spending? Just a 2.51%. Why that is also less? Subsidies again. Energy sector, again just 2.11%. So it is not a surprise in our country that there are so many houses there even in our country, and industrial establishments also in our country, small, medium sector, etc., that don't have access to electricity, or continuous electricity is a luxury. This is the reason. Look at where we are spending the money. And what are we getting? See, when you spend on defense, fine, I agree, because these days we are trying to go for indigenization. I agree with this. So this is needed. But subsidies when you pay, what are we getting in return is the question. In return what? Rural development, it will definitely improve the social equality there. Education, definitely yes. Social, economic, all sorts of equality. Energy sector, bringing energy everywhere in the country. 100% electricity, that is literally electrifying. Providing electricity to every household in the country. Very, very important. Then, for health, we are just spending how much? 1.98%. For agriculture and allied activities, 1.87%. Why? Maximum money has already been spent on subsidies. Now, from where the next set of money will come? So, investment in agriculture, if you see in terms of, let us have air-conditioned warehouses. Let us have storage units where you can store fruits and vegetables for more than 40-50 days in nice refrigerated yards. Let us ensure cleanliness. Let us bring in refrigerated trucks for transportation. Where is the money for it? Urban development, even more worse, 1.7%. So it is not a surprise then that our cities are either flooding or they are having pollution issues or they are having traffic blocks. Where is the funding? Social welfare, when you take 1.22%, that means the disadvantaged section, the poor, women, widowed, SC, ST, particularly vulnerable tribal groups, they also end up getting less funds. Commerce and industry, just around 1.07%. Now, this is the next beauty. For scientific departments, how much it is? Not even 1% of the GDP. Not even 1%. And we sit and wonder, why are we not producing electronic goods? Why are we not producing this? Why are we buying everything from there? The day when we spend, I'm telling you, the day when we start spending, at least let us say, 5% of the expenses goes for scientific departments, till that day, research is not going to improve in our country. I have told this in my class also earlier, but all you have to do is to, if you really want to get kicked out from your house, if you're a boy, just go tell, I want to do research. I want to do post-graduation, then PhD, then post-doctoral degree. I want to do research. If you say, you will get kicked out. If you want to get married real fast, if you're a girl, want to get married real fast, again the same thing you have to say, I want to do research. Game over. Development of Northeast, again look at it, just 0.13%. There is no surprise that Northeast continues to be impoverished in terms of infrastructure development or any other developmental activities. Central revenue and expenditure. Where the rupee comes from? It comes from borrowings and other liabilities. Income tax, it is 19 paise. GST and other tax is 18 paise. Corporation tax 17 paise. Non-tax receipts 7 paise. Union excise duty is 5 paise. Customs 4 paise. Non-debt capital receipts 1 paise. All these points will be taken up by the economics faculty Pratik sir in his class. For those of you who want to take it up. Alright. Now, Indian cities, we already saw. Urban development, what is the money that we are spending? How much it is? Just 1.7%. So it is not a medical miracle that water crisis in Indian cities is there. It's a common scenario. It is there everywhere. In almost all cities, it is there today. Private companies have also jumped in because you can make money out of it. There is inequalities in water use. Gated communities, etc. always ensure that they have a good supply of water. Disparities are there in water usage. Poor people barely get access to it. Rich people have nice swimming pools to swim in it. And there is a recommended supply of water that we should bring in. Some amount of conditions we should keep here, right? Because a minimal quantity of water is required to, again, for what? A decent living. Slum dwellers, luxury hotels, there is huge disparity between the two. Government failures and private companies. Government has failed here in this regard. Because even when you look at, let us say, Chennai, I think even 3 or 4 years ago, it was reported in the media, they tried to dig a bore well. They actually hit the hard rock, the bottom rock. Not a drop of water. Same thing goes with Bengaluru. Whenever the rains, there is a variation in the rainfall in Bengaluru, water levels will drop. Perceived government failure, it is privatization argument. That is, government has failed to provide water. Government has failed to. That is, Bengaluru city itself, if you take, it was a city that had lot of lakes inside the city. Artificial as well as natural. Most of these lakes are gayab now. You don't find these lakes. Even the same thing goes for Chennai, same goes for Hyderabad, everywhere. There were small areas where water could be collected. Now in all those areas, real estate mafia took over. So there is no space, nothing is there inside a city to absorb the excess water. So what happens? It will flood the street. Performance of private companies or privatization, again, it is not going to give any long-lasting solution because they also will only work for profit. They won't care from where the water is coming or how it is going to threaten the environment. Clear, people? With that, we come to an end of our discussion here. So all I know, I've not gone into the depth of it because obviously it is all on a need to know basis because the in-depth part is where it comes under Lakshmikant, Indian Polity. All right. For the Pinnacle batch, I teach polity and governance. So those of you who are interested may join the batch. There we can have a detailed discussion of each and every fundamental right. What are its context? What are the Supreme Court rulings under it? Even the PYQs there. Got it, people? God bless. Take care.